I know a lot of people who enter online tournaments and are like, oh, I know someone's watching that's going to give me a sponsorship. It doesn't really work like that. It probably won't ever. I'm taking like what is it? Like the oak dining chair. I'm sitting on it right now. Yeah, exactly. Sitting in the chair backwards. Exactly. No one really comes to mind for this, but I'll say in actuality, people basically think that 1 or 2 or 3 or even 5 wins can get you something significant in esports. And it doesn't really work that way. If your value is purely that you can win with a character, that's a bad sign, right? If you really think about it from like a business perspective, right? It doesn't really show much if you just like win with select characters and select tournaments. So they're thinking too much about the future and it kind of fucks them over. I'm gonna give you an example of this. This is unrelated. Here's a very common thought, like a very common process. If you've ever met someone or you've ever known someone that picks up a game and does this, you will understand what I'm talking about. Jimmy. We're gonna call him Jimmy, okay? Jimmy picks up Strive. He likes the game. Jimmy decides, I'm going to get good. Jimmy then dictates the next, like, I don't know, week or 2 to some absurd training regimen. Like, I gotta net play for 8 hours, training mode for 2, and then replay analysis for an hour. I've seen this hundreds of times. Like, I'm not even joking. Jimmy burns out immediately from a mixture of just like playing too much and essentially disappointment. Jimmy, as a result of wanting to be good, does not get good. Like, obviously it sucks because like I empathize because I remember when I was young, I cared so much about being good at a game as I entered it. Basically, I wasn't as proud of my accomplishment, so I dedicated the time I put into to each game. I would try to be the best ever. I'm sure, again, you have some friends that did something similar to me. I'd watch every YouTube video possible for the game, right? I'd watch every guide, I'd watch everything. If you play like this, I mean, it's just straight up, you will have some sort of process like this where you get burned out from just playing too much. You're turning it into a job you don't get paid for. There is no circumstance you'll ever be able to last as long as as anything else. Like, you're not going to be able to maintain that. Yeah, streamers do that a lot too. VTubers are so bad about that because they'll like watch like, you know, a lot of the bigger VTubers do really consistent stream and then they do it and they're just like, by week 1 or week 2, they're like, I can't do this shit anymore. I talk a lot about enjoying the experience. It does not mean play like shit and lose every game for fun. Well, it's not like that, right? I feel like when I say enjoy the experience, this is how people interpret it. XD, you lost? Nice. When I say this is how I feel. This is how I feel people are interpreting what I'm saying. In actuality, it's more like just play and have fun, right? If you want to be good at it, if you want to grow and become like a really strong player, you can. You don't need to do like this, like, you know, 8-hour shifts shit. I'm gonna call it rushing through success. That's basically what I describe it as. The thing about this is usually if you get good at a very rapid rate, it usually implies that you have some major weakness. Usually when people get good very fast, it's more of a product of they learn how to take advantage of their character. Usually when people rush through success, what it ends up being is they rush to be good with their character. They're not rushing to be good at the game. They're not rushing to be good overall. They are essentially just being good in the moment. Here's why this tends to happen. Playing for a long period of time does have an inherent advantage. Experience, right? It's experience. If you have major matchup misunderstandings or characters develop further, you will almost certainly stagnate. You know what? I'm gonna even 100% you on this. Every person I've seen that's had that perspective or just rush through it, you will end up in one of these 2 books. Here's the other problem. Number 2, if your character changes, and especially if the cast changes, you're not back at square one, but you will probably struggle. You'll probably feel like your skill level has gone down or the opponent's has surged somehow. So here's the thing, and here's where people get fucked immediately. People who even successfully do this have a huge, I guess like a very high rate of quitting after 1 or 2 patches. You are learning how to use strong options. They got removed. You don't know how to play. It's applicable in every game. A lot of people have like tremendous amounts of fun one patch. It's like next patch, it's like I'm kind of losing and it's not so fun anymore. Maybe 80 to 90% of the Soul players did that. This isn't something to feel bad about. You know, I'm glad you brought up Eno, because I think Eno has a sort of experience. Oh my God, I have so much to talk about today. You pick up a game, I'm gonna say you play Doodle Bob. You love Doodle Bob. Titty Tinkler 420 is the best Doodle Bob ever. Most people will purely base their comprehension of the game based off of Titty Tinkler 420's experience. Here, I'm gonna bold this. This is very important. Titty Tinkler 420 was very good at Doodle Bob in 1.0, but Doodle Bob got hit hard in patch 1.1039. Titty Tinkler cannot make it out of pools anymore. What Titty Tinkler 420 just did, what probably did, is rush their own experience, right? Usually when you see a player do extremely well and then just disappear the next patch, they probably rushed it. This is a shot at May players. Honestly, this is a shot at many characters. And I'm including characters I play too, whether it be through, you know, just the game has progressed. Milia found a new set play. Anji can loop Butterfly Oki in 50-50, like whatever, right? Shit like that, right? Someone asked, that's why mastering fundamentals first is key. Like when we talk about fundamentals, what does that mean? RPS, that, you know me. You're playing to the teacher right now. Look at you. Basically, when they say fundamentals, they mean neutral. Like literally they mean nothing besides playing neutral. What does neutral mean? They're done, right? It's like at that point it's over. When I think of fundamentals, I would think of the following: how well you can play your character while minimizing your actions. I know a lot of people are gonna laugh at this, but you can be a fundamentally sound RAM player without actually understanding why you're doing it. Like RAM holding space with bar S and 5H, everyone would expect this, right? Just inherently. That is still fundamentally very good, right? Now let's talk about the other things that comes with it. Movement, like how good is your movement? If you're just running in a straight line, then I'm not even gonna write that out. This is basically what happens if you're just running in a straight line, right? It's like defense, blah, decision making, blah, right? Like they don't understand what's applicable here. All you have to do is just like you far S and you 5H. Basically what they learned, and they're successful at it, right? Then far S or 5H get nerfed. Then it's like, well, what do you do if they get nerfed? And you have to situationally play around it. Goodbye. So like you can essentially do good fundamental things without actually understanding that you are doing something right or wrong, right? It's just like the character by nature teaches you how to do it, right? If you understand why you press fire S or 5H, that's a lot different. Fundamentals, it's a very cloudy term, right? Like, it's like a lot of people very highly idolize what it could be and what it could mean. To me, I think it's really just comprehension of what you're doing. If you are comprehending that, like, I'm moving like this, if I move 2 character lengths, they can far S. If I move 1, I'm not at risk, and if they whiff something, I am at advantage. Well, if they play with that and they, you know, let's say they dash forward a character length and then they press a button, recognizing that, I think, is fundamental. Playing footsie, it's moving, it's offense, it's defense. I guess like an air movement is different from ground movement. When you press a button, it's everything, right? What dictates if they're good or not is how they are able to play around those things. To me, fundamentals is like you're actually trying to think about what your opponent does. People learn incorrectly through their, I guess, top representative. I know it sounds like I'm talking about the election, but I'm not. They play incorrectly. They misunderstand the process that they're going through. They permanently stagnate for the rest of the game. And I'm not saying they stagnate for a patch. They stagnate for the game. Let me give you an example in the sense of someone like Daru, right? Daru is one of the best examples because Daru has a very strong benchmark for learning, you know, here's how Daru is so strong, right? Daru is extremely good at forcing offense and RPSing. He's one of the absolute best players I've ever seen in this bubble. Now here's the problem. A lot of people learn how to play Eno through Daru. If you copy how Daru plays, right, his skill set is he's really good at forcing offense and RPSing because He is very realistically able to knock you down once, set play you, that's it. He's good at it. He's one of the best at it, right? You try to play like him and you don't have those things, you will just die. This leads to he's winning, I'm not. What's up? What do you think most people go to from here? Oh, you got it. He's just built different. It's like, the thing is, when it comes to characters like this, people cannot be imitated. Like, Mochi is like the same sort of way. He's built so different and he's like so good, but how he plays is enabled through his reactions. If you don't have his reactions and you try to play like him, then you're just like kind of flailing. When they say he's just built different, what they mean is character is bad. He's really, 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 really good. I'm good too, by the way. People in this position rarely ever improve past this point until they get something in a patch that clicks for them. Like, even like in Exert, like I never tried to copy Mochi ever. And of course the reason for that is just because like I could not play like him. I played a lot like Hawken, and I asked advice from Hawken as a result, because Hawken was much more of a playstyle I could represent. If I tried to play like Mochi, I would have gotten shit stomped throughout all of Exert, like so hard, right? How do I make my player style different to other players without falling into a flowchart? Well, that's the thing, you can't. You will fall into a flowchart. Here's the thing, right? Flowcharts inherently are good and can be good. The problem is if you cannot change your flowchart, right? If you play Happy Chaos, you're going to be using gunshots on neutral. If you play Ram, you're going to be using like hurt buttons. If you play Nago, you're probably going to RPS a lot around like high risk reward situations for you. Most people tend to learn these ways, right? Like most people would want to learn what makes the character as strong as they can be. The thing is, when they lose what makes that character as strong as they could be, they essentially start to fumble. Basically, the inability to change your playstyle that's what makes it very bad. If you can change it, this does not apply to you. But the thing is, most of the time when you're rushing through success, how the fuck are you ever gonna know what's second best if you focus so much on just, this is the best, I need to do this? You probably won't. In fact, if you do, it won't be as developed as other people. This doesn't really matter as much if you're learning at a more stable rate, if you're learning more like thoroughly and not focusing as much on the end game, right? I also mean this from the lens of sometimes people are more inclined to think more or think less, depending on who plays who is recognized as the strongest for their character, which is also common for low tiers. A lot of people who are newer that succeed at low tiers tend to have a very misguided comprehension of why they're winning. And again, I can tell you that because that's literally what happened to me, like 1-to-1 with Potemkin, right? And so as a result, some people also downplay their characters, not because the character is actually bad, but because they've been misled to believe that a character is so bad. If you truly believe that you can't win with a character, or like you're basically sandbagging, I think you're dumb as hell. I think if all you do is complain about the character and you fly out for tournaments to play in tournament with that character only to complain after, either change characters or like, I don't know, get help. It's not good. It's like, here's the thing. People, I used to do this too. They get crafty with their ego, right? They get a little crafty. I was definitely guilty of this. I would be like, I wouldn't say like, oh, my character sucks, but I'd be like, oh, this matchup's really tough. If I go into it, I'm gonna lose. But basically, I meant the same thing. My character sucks. That's basically what I meant. If I thought Testament, even though I find Testament very fun, if I thought Testament was just like holding me back as a competitor, I would drop them because I'm a competitor, right? That's what I do. So many people were like, I'm tired of playing these trash characters. I'm playing Biken. Bruh, are you serious? That is like one of the dumbest things I had heard from that period. There's so many people that did that. Like, the thing is, when people talk about like I tried so hard for this character, brother, it's like they try for like a month or 2 months. Sometimes like characters develop over years. The best players usually are in that bubble of like they're willing to take a long amount of time and dedicate a lot of work to figuring out the character. But if you're focused too much on winning, then you're probably going to be bouncing around a lot. Both, not just between characters, but like, do I want to swap? Do I swap now? It's like, oh, I had a good tournament last time, but 0-2 this time. What's going on? Like, it's like, that sort of thing can happen. I don't know. A lot of people just like, they lose for a month or two. They swap characters. They don't even swap to like the best character. Like, if I was playing the best character, I'd win. And then they don't swap to the best character. It's like, what are you hiding? So like, I don't know. So that's why I always recommend like being open to like learning stuff and being willing to experiment with them, even if you will lose. I feel bad because like I always talk about these things so trivially, right? But I realize a lot of people probably watch my content and they're like, she's spitting. And then you play and you're like, I hate this game. I don't give a shit what she said. I don't blame you.